Hey guys, it's Bill from Linden, Tennessee. So this has been a pretty productive holiday weekend. Happy 4th of July to everyone. I hope you made it through with all your digits and had a good time. Had some barbecue. We didn't really do much of anything. My wife's brother was here in town and they just hung out and talked about books. They're both really, really smart. I'm not really, really smart. Anyway, I've been out here in the garage all weekend. It was 99 degrees in here just a little while ago, so the heat continues. I got myself overheated the other day, and it just kind of sneaks up on you. I didn't even realize it till we left to go eat. Anyway, you don't give a damn about that. Let's talk about this. So, yeah, I've done a whole lot on this thing. I have made an executive decision. I think I talked last time that the batteries are going to hang out over the front wheels like that. The console is going to be somewhere like that, and the back seat is going to be roughly about right there. The electric motor is going to be about right there, and there's going to be a drive shaft that goes between a center pivot. It's going to look something about like that. Yeah, so my big job yesterday, all day yesterday, was going through these transmissions, and I was just going to kind of clean up the outside of them and just put a coat of paint on it, but then I thought, no, do it right or don't do it at all. And so I ended up taking the axle tubes off and cleaning them up and cleaning all the nasty, nasty oil. And it wasn't even oil, it was like this goo stuff. It was really nasty. It didn't smell good. It was just horrible stuff. Got all that stuff out of the transmission case there. And I ordered some axle seals, but the wrong ones. I got the wrong ones, so I had to order what I hope will be the correct ones. But yeah, so I took all these apart and cleaned them and painted it. I decided to not go with Cub Cadet Yellow because I think what I'm going to do right now is what I'm going to do, and we'll see how successful I am. I'm going to insert some images of what I'm going to try and make this thing look like. It's basically a 2+2 International Harvester, 7884, 7886, something like that. Numbers are probably wrong. Anyway, that's going to be what this looks like. So it's going to have this really, really long hood covering up all the batteries and motors and electronics. And I even came up with another cool idea, brainstorming at like midnight the other night, of what I could do, because I actually have a whole lot of room in here. Yeah, so I've come up with kind of a neat idea. We'll talk about that later. This will be the back body, and I'm going to get another back body just like this, and it'll kind of rotate around 180 degrees so that those tail lights will end up being up here, pointing forward. I'll delete the tail lights, but they'll just kind of be my front fenders. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's nice to have this all sort of put together like this. So here's where I sectioned the front part of the chassis. I'll try and cut to a video right now to sort of give you a little bit more detail about how to do that. So here's kind of a shot. If you're splicing the frame together like I've done here, of course you want to get the cuts as square and straight and all that, and then you want to do a little bit of metal prep. You want to kind of clean the edges off a little bit, maybe put a little bevel at it. But more importantly, whenever you set these two pieces up together, you don't want them to butt directly together. You want to give yourself a little gap in between there. That'll allow the weld to flow between the gap and give you good penetration for a solid weld. And then the way you kind of go about doing this, I just, simple MIG machine here, just a Miller-Matic Challenger 172 from about 20 something years ago. But I mean, really, you just hold kind of a straight angle like this, and you literally just keep the puddle right there in the middle, and just kind of keep a nice smooth speed. And what you're looking for, not so much on the outside, but on the backside, is full penetration there. Now, if you see there on the right, I picked it up really good, but there in the middle, and then more towards the left, I didn't get it. My travel speed was too fast, and I didn't allow the I didn't allow the weld to sink in very good. So I'll just come back on this one and just weld it on the backside as well. It's not really necessary. It's a good weld. It'll hold, certainly for what this is going to be doing. The front of this frame is just going to be holding up batteries, but it is going to be under some shock, some stress, with the front end of this machine bouncing around over bumps or rocks or chunks of grass or whatever. There's going to be some load on the front of this, so I want to make sure this is a nice solid weld. So I'm going to come back and I'll just weld that back in. Now ideally what I'd do is I'd come in with a angle grinder and a cutoff wheel and V that out, kind of groove it out so it's nice and clean. That way when I weld over the top of it I don't end up with empty spaces, but I'm not going to do that. This isn't an airplane. That'll be just fine. And now that I've looked at that one, I can take a little bit more care when I finish out this side to go slow and kind of watch the puddle. And yeah, so I just wanted to do a quick little talk about welding. And then ultimately what you do on the outside anyway, I'll come back and I'll smooth it over like I've done here, and you'll never even know there was a weld there at all. So, okay. Okay, I hope that worked. And then I kind of did the same thing back here where this joint is. This is just spot welded together, and that's all it's going to be, because this is actually where the pivot is going to be. The pivot being a hinge joint. This will actually be down here somewhere-ish. And the center line of that pivot will be right there at that cut. So what I just executively decided, I went over to my trusty little lawn tractor right now and measured its wheelbase, 48 inches. And I said, that's a good wheelbase. So 48 inches it is. So that's exactly what that is, 48 inches. And found out where, so I picked up on these points right here. These are the sort of front support. These are the forward support on the transmission that sort of keeps the whole thing from rocking like that. So that is in the exact same spot with respect to the axle on both of them. So I came back and picked up that spot and that one and measured it, came up with a distance, and then I measured from where the wheel is touching the ground on the front and the back, made that 48, and if that's 48 and that was 38, that means that there was 10 inches that had to come out. So measured from, I found my center line wherever that was, and then measured 5 inches back, or I think that's how I did that. To be honest, I don't remember, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how I did it. And then just marked it on both of them and made sure that this to that cut and that to this cut were the same. And you just do one of them first. You make your line, and then you cut it. And you cut it the same on both sides, and then you just go back and measure it. And it turns out that I actually cut the line, being a 16th inch Sharpie. So I cut the line, which made it, I think the measurement from here to here was 27 and 15/16. So I just measured it and then made sure that I cut the line at 27 and 15/16. Now it doesn't even kind of have to be that accurate, but if you're going to do something, do it right. So that's how that's going to go. So that'll be my bottom pivot. And then of course I've talked about, I got it all taken apart, but my top pivot will just be a drive shaft with 2 U-joints on the end. And it will be, I don't know how long it's going to be, but I think it's probably going to go, it's probably going to pick up on my 2 stubs right there. So those are the same length from the end of the transmission to the end of the drive shaft. So those are the same length. I may end up cutting them back a little bit. This one is really going to determine, let's see if I can get it. Yeah, this one's going to determine, sorry. This one is, you get the idea. That's going to determine how long it needs to be, because it's going to have a front bearing support on that one back there for sure, because it's got that tension for the belt. And then, but I may not need it now that I'm thinking about it, because there's a solid bearing on the front of the transmission. So there's a really solid bearing there, and I'm going to have a bearing support for the U-joint. So I may just end up using these 2 only and flip these around this way and there'll be a piece of metal there that those will screw into, and then the U-joint will go between those two. Yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but anyway, I think I may not need two bearings over there. It's better to have lesser bearings than more. The kind of cool thing about having a U-joint drive shaft with a slip joint between these two is that if there's some misalignment, like I don't know exactly if that output shaft is dead center. I don't know exactly if that output shaft is dead center of the frame rails. It may be off, by a 1/16 or an 1/18 of an inch. If it was a solid shaft, that'd be a real big problem. But since it's a U-joint, the U-joint and the slip joint will just sort of accept that offset, that misalignment. So that's pretty cool. And then as the machine turns, then it'll the U-joint will just accept that. So, and then this back here, I'm holding this up with a piece with a angle grinder. And then for here, this is roughly where this back body is going to go. Roughly the right height. I'll have like a little trunk back here. That's going to be kind of cool. This is going to pivot here. But as far as the body is concerned, the body will think it's stationary, but the front is pivoting with respect to it. And then I don't really know what the maximum pivot angle will be. A lot. I hope a lot. So I may end up having to notch this out at like a 45-degree angle or something. It'll pretty much be determined by how this moves, where this gets notched. And then I'll just put like a little guard up there so my foot doesn't get in the middle of it or whatever. I don't know. That's for another day. What to do now? To do now is get these oil seals, and when I get these oil seals, then I can finish the assembly of the axles. I can get the tires put on. I wasn't exactly sure which tires I was going to use. I've got these dudes out here. These are 10-inch wide tires with like a super duper offset. And I didn't think these were going to be very useful, but I think these will actually work really good, because you kind of the hub is sort of inset a little bit of the wheel, and then you kind of look at these ones here, and the hub is sort of equally offset to the inside of the wheel. So these ones will end up being the front tires with 9.5-inch wide. These will end up being the front wheels with 9.5-inch tires on it, and then those fat 10-inch wheels will be back tires with 10.5-inch wide tires on it. And I think that'll look pretty cool. It'll be kind of staggered. The big challenge is going to be getting those 10.5-inch wide tires on 10-inch wide rims. I'm probably going to have to put tubes in them. I don't really want to put tubes in them, because if you get a thorn or something, you can't fix a tube yourself. At least I can't. You got to be able to break the bead and all. That's a nightmare. But if it's tubeless, then you can just put a plug in it and go on about your business. But anywho, yeah. So pretty exciting weekend. Got a lot done. Man, it's been hot. It's 98.9 degrees in here now. But yeah. So the next thing on the list, I suppose, is fixing this motor in its correct position. I've got a motor plate that'll end up slotting the frame right there, and then this motor plate will just kind of basically do that right there. It'll slide in between those slots, and then I can come up on the inside and weld it on both sides, and that'll be a nice solid mount. And I'm probably going to have to have some sort of a tensioner of some description on that belt, because I won't really have a way to adjust the motor once this plate is welded in position. I won't be able to adjust that motor. Those transmissions are pretty much where they go. Yeah, I'll have to have some sort of tensioner, and a tensioner will kind of be the only way I can get the belt on and off without actually removing the bolt or removing the motor. So I don't want to do that. It needs to be you got to kind of keep maintenance in mind when you're doing this crazy stuff. So anywho, that's the next thing on the list. I think for now I'm just going to go inside, sit in the air conditioner for a little while and cool out. Cool off a little bit, maybe jump in the river, maybe go for a float. This would be a wonderful day for a float. So anyway, thank you for watching. Again, happy 4th of July, and I'll see you next time.